Hello students, welcome to MBA 360. We've been doing a series of B schools that we've thought you must be a part of your consideration set because beyond the IIMs, of course, we're talking about, right? Of that, one of them is the DOMS, which is Department of Management Studies at IIT Roorkee. Why do we suggest that? I'll show you data of why I will be suggesting that, but it's very important for you to know what are your other options beyond the IIMs, and this for sure should be a part of your consideration set. Why am I saying that? The Department of Management Studies at IIT Roorkee was established in 1998. To offer management programs within one of India's oldest engineering and technology institutions. Remember, IIT Roorkee was one of the oldest institutions that you had in the country. Its MBA program is 2 years, right? Full-time residential course, focused on core management concepts and advanced specializations anchored in analytical and practical learning. It's got a very selective CAT-based intake and diverse specializations. DOMS has built a very credible position among its IIT-affiliated management programs across the country, reflected in its admissions profile and also the placement outcomes that it actually delivers to the students year after year. I'll show you through data of why we recommend that it must be a part of a consideration set. We'll also talk of the placement that it has, what kind of companies that come in for placement, what kind of salaries you can expect if you were to join DOMS at IIT Roorkee. Let me take you through that. And before I move further, please subscribe to MBA 360 if you've not already done that. It's important for us to understand that you support us, you watch us, and you actually are benefited because of the kind of work we do. Coming back to IIT DOMS Roorkee, this was established in 1998, as I told you earlier, right? 1998. So we're dealing with about 28 years of legacy. Now, when you actually have 28 years of legacy, about 27 batches have passed out, 27 batches have passed out. What it means is that so many students are out there in the market, having grown up the ladder and possibly occupying very leadership positions across the companies from where they joined in, right? Because of that, typically in such institutions where there is greater legacy, the placements are extremely good because the alumni normally help their alma mater, and that's what happens. So you will see that as you move along. It's an INI, of course, because all IITs are INI, and this, because it's housed under in IIT Roorkee, is an INI also. Campus size is 365 acres. Total student strength is 163, right? Of which about 93% are boys and 7% are girls. This for me is very disappointing. Ideally, it should be about 30-70 kind of a thing. So there seems to be something that these people need to work on in terms of increasing its gender diversity. Because especially in MBA programs, if you don't have gender diversity, you don't learn. You're going to go out in the market and start working with the whole population and not half the population. If the man doesn't understand what a woman needs, especially when you're dealing with large conglomerates or working with them, then you'll not be able to create products or service them the way it should be. So from that perspective, for me, this diversity, gender diversity, is extremely disappointing. Having said that, let's move ahead. 98% students come from outside the state, which is the way it should be, right? And about 2 students are also from outside the country also, right? And the faculty is 26 of 163 students, which essentially means that you actually have 1 faculty for almost 7 students, which is very good because typically this is about 1:15. And IITs typically follow a 1:12 kind of a role, but this is much more as I see it. Now, talking of placements, whenever we talk of placements, I only show you data that's submitted to the Government of India, Ministry of Education. Now, this particular data that we're showing you is submitted to NIRF, which is National Institutional Ranking Framework, which essentially is the body which ranks all these colleges across the country. It comes under the Ministry of Education. Now, why do we take this data? Because this data is submitted on an affidavit by the Dean Director of this particular B school in IIT Roorkee. And to that extent, it's a lot more authentic, a lot more credible because it's signed and sealed under an affidavit in a certain sense, right? So when we look at that data for the 22-24 batch, these 2023 they joined in, but 22-24 if I were to look at it, right? 95 was the actual permitted intake, of which 82 they admitted. So in all, about 14% students' seats were left vacant. This for me is always a problem of why most of the DOMs at IITs leave their seats vacant, where the students are forced to go to some other bad B school. If you're a government funded institution, I think it's your responsibility to ensure that all seats that you have are filled in, and you do every possible attempt to make sure that all seats are filled in. That doesn't seem to be the case here, right? Now, how many students are placed? Of the 82 who joined in, 79 students, were placed. All the 82, by the way, graduated, so 100% graduation. And 79 students were placed, which means about 3 students were not placed. So in that perspective, about 96% is the placement that they're dealing with. And 3 students, by the way, moved for higher education. Opted for higher studies is what they claim, right? So essentially what they claim is that about 3 students did not want to get placed, so they sat outside the placement system. So if you look at it that way also, there is 100% placement. But I still have my own question marks on those kind of things, because earlier it was supposed to be 0 and then it started becoming a balancing figure where when any student who is not getting placed started moving for higher studies. So there seems to be a question mark on this. But anyways, I'll leave it at this point in time. The placement is between 96% to 100%. Let's assume that's what it is. It's either 96% or 100%, nothing otherwise, right? Now, what kind of salaries can you expect when you joined DOMS, DOMS at IIT Roorkee? The median salary across the year has been about 18 lakhs, if you see. 18 lakhs, 18.09, 18.5 and all, which essentially also means that the inflation is not getting factored in. They're not able to grow the salary levels to even match up with the inflation. It's got stuck for the last 3 years at 18.5 lakh rupees, right? And the highest salary is 26 lakh rupees, which is pretty evenly spread out, 26, 27, 28 and 26. So again, that also is very clearly the same trend is what you can notice. Average salary is 18.3. Earlier it was 18.34. So again, it maintained itself in a certain sense. And the average of the top 50% is 22.69. Right. Now, if you were to look at it in terms of the average salary of the bottom 50%, then you'll come to this. 18.3 lakhs is the total average salary. This is what you notice, right? Into 2 is 36.6 lakhs, right? Minus 22.69, right? So when you look at it, about 14 lakhs is what, about 13.91 lakhs is what you'll get at in terms of the average salary for the bottom 13.91 lakhs. Is for the bottom 50%. Now this also is okay for me as I look at it, because there is not much of a difference between these two. It's about 9 lakhs or 8.5 lakhs, 9 lakhs is the difference that you have. Now in a good B school, this would be slightly narrower, but IIT Roorkee being IIT Roorkee, this is what at this point in time the data suggests that, the top half got about 22.69 lakh and the bottom half students got 13.91 lakh as the average salary. And that is decent enough at this point in time, at the way I look at it, right? Now, what are the kind of companies that come for placement? You actually have all kinds of companies. You have Accenture, which is a tech company or a consulting company, depending on what role you get. Adani, which is a conglomerate. Extria, Bank of America Bank, Bharat Electronics, which is an electronic company, Bristol Cone, C-Dot, Coca-Cola, SLM Beverages, Cognizant Tech Company, Deloitte Tech, or Consulting, Engineers India Limited. So you actually suddenly see a lot of PSUs coming here, if you notice that. Bharat Electronics Limited, right? Engineers India Limited, C-Dot, right? Euromonitor International, EY Consulting, Frost & Sullivan, Gale, PSU, ICICI Bank, Hyundai, Indian Oil, again PSU, Infosys Tech Company, Mac Software, Emphasis, NatWest, Tronics, Om Logistics, Petronet, Reliance, again a conglomerate, Sun Petro, Unity Small Finance Bank, VE Commercial Vehicles, Wipro and Zyka. So you actually have tech companies, consulting companies, banks, a lot of PSUs as a seat, which is very unusual for an IIT, but a lot of PSUs seem to be going there to recruit from IIT Roorkee DOMS, right? Which is very good if I were to put things in perspective. Now, when we looked at the LinkedIn profile to understand how are the students who studied at DOMS at IIT Roorkee performing, how are they performing in their life. Mind you, it's been there for about 25-30 years. So obviously we wanted to track how the students are performing. We found about 838 students who claim to have studied at IIT Roorkee on LinkedIn. Of this, 16 are right now working in ICICI Bank. If you recall, ICICI Bank was going there for recruitment. At some point in time, 53 students were worked or passed through ICICI Bank, of which currently 16 are right now working. In Tata's, 2 students are working. In NatWest Group, 16 students are working, right? In Deloitte, NatWest also is recruiting. If you go back, Tata's also recruiting, right? Deloitte, 10 students are working, and Wipro, 2 students are working. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to correlate the names of the companies that IIT Roorkee claim that companies are coming there for recruitment. We also try to corroborate the same information on LinkedIn also to understand whether some of these students are actually working in those companies, and we did find them. So to that extent, the companies that are listed there seems to be absolutely correct, and these are the kind of recruitment that happens. We also further looked at how are the students placed, where are they placed at this point in time. When we looked at that, 95% students are in India, which also means 5% students are outside of India. Right, 12 students are in USA. Of the 830 or 840 that we had, 7 are in Canada, 5 are in UK. So essentially what you have is, of course, in these kind of institutions, you must always remember that students ultimately join a company and they would be placed at headquarters. So, 13% in Delhi, 13% in Maharashtra, 4% in Telangana, which is Hyderabad essentially. So you actually see that very evenly spread out kind of a number that you will be able to see when you look at these numbers. Of course, I think one of the big things that is missing out here is Karnataka, which would have a large intake that is hidden somewhere here. So that should also be a part of this chart, right? But essentially what you see here is that the students are very well spread out and are working in all places within the country and outside the country also, which is very good. You give it a few more years, you will actually see this 5% becoming 15% in the next 15-20 years, because students, when they join a big company like that, they move up the ladder, grow up the ladder, and also hit a global career path also at some point in time, which is what happens to very, very good B schools, and that I see this happening for DOMS at IIT Roorkee also. I will keep covering a lot more B schools as you wanted. If you want me to cover a B school of your choice, please write to me here and I'll be happy to cover that. Thank you so much. Namaste. And please do subscribe to MBA 360 if you've not already done that. Thank you so much.